Did you watch that Doctor Who program last night? Doctor Who. It was extraordinary. A police box, but inside there was a whole spaceship time travel machine. It was magnificent. There was this girl, she could... her grandfather's a time traveler. He's Doctor Who. And two of her school teachers go to investigate because, she's very strange. Yes. Now, it's here we wonder whether the psychedelic furs Susan Strange was inspired by Doctor Who episode, the first episode of Doctor Who, An Unearthly Child. It's just me here today. We're going to be discussing, over the course of this year, the classic episodes of the Doctor Who series, which aired from 1963 to 1989. As you realise, 2023, this will be the 60th anniversary of the programme. Marvellous. The longest, if we, excluding the hiatus, or if we including the new show as part of the old show, this is the longest running science fiction television show of all time. Considering what Doctor Who is, what it's known for, this is quite extraordinary. How I'm going to approach this retrospective is each day I'll be discussing an episode of the original run, so one entry of a serial every day over the course of this year and the next until we're through the original run. I'm going to be discussing it from the perspective of a sort of, man, did you see Doctor Who last night? Sort of perspective. I'm going to try and be thinking about, and I have been thinking about as I've been watching this, so this first episode thus far, An Unearthly Child Part 1, I've been imagining what it would have been like to actually sit down and view this in 1963. Now, you may realise that my order of viewing them is not exactly accurate. Doctor Who did not air night after night, it aired weekly, but I digress, and I think that's besides the point a little bit. If we're going to be role-playing / placing, trying to imagine ourselves in a different time and place, as given that we're watching Doctor Who with its 20th century BBC visual effects department, special effects, we may as well. It's this act of time traveling in a respect, at least mentally, understanding how people were thinking, hypothetically, or even inevitably how people were thinking in 1963 /4, 5, 6, whenever the respective episodes were airing. And I must say, this is one of the most extraordinary first episodes of any program I have ever seen. Now, if I may break the illusion of watching this for the first time in 1963, wow, who knew? The rest of An Unearthly Child, the next 3 episodes of this serial, mar its reputation. But taking this single first episode alone, it's a phenomenal start to the series. The entirety, the 4-episode run of An Unearthly Child, it's not one of Doctor Who's strongest moments, but nevertheless, that's not really what we're going to be... We're not going to be discussing... The focus isn't on these serials as a whole, as a... let's sit down and watch them in our homes, in our comfy beds or couches, 21st century luxury living. We're talking about, catching this in the brief 20 minutes when we can, and then talking about it the next day, what impression that memory, that temporal space and time made upon us. And when you saw the end of this episode in November 1963, you would have never felt more excited at the prospect of an upcoming event. That is, the airing of Cave of Skulls that next week, the continuation of this episode's storyline. Isn't it easy to understand now why audiences became so obsessed, why they clung to this show for years? How it grew into such a phenomenon in the UK? K-Punk once wrote that a new sort of alien technology, like television, really benefited from having this new, strange experimental technology for its theme music, for its title visuals, and then an alien as its protagonist, and an alien who is dressed like a man from another age, an older age. He's got this Edwardian era get-up. It was so easy in retrospect to understand why this show is such a phenomenon. There's so much imagination displayed in 120 minutes. You would have been captivated. It's no wonder people were recording these episodes off of the television, just the audio. Obviously, there was no means of, very few means of being able to, from one's home, capture the visual on the television, although they had means of capturing the audio, which is how episodes have been reconstructed over the years that the BBC junked. And what's fascinating about Doctor Who's imagination is that it was never the product of any one individual's vision. Now, obviously, something like Star Trek, it wasn't necessarily one person's vision, although Roddenberry was the gravity. It changed a lot from Roddenberry's vision, even in the original series. There are many facets of the original Star Trek series which are not Roddenberry's idea. Then obviously Star Trek as we know it developed in the films and Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Roddenberry has nothing to do with that, and that has contributed to the modern idea of Star Trek more thoroughly than Roddenberry ever could. And then we have something like Doctor Who, which was devised out of producers wanting science fiction shows, proposing elements in a very kind of carnival-esque manner, like, oh, this will please the public, we'll have this and this and this. It's not like any one writer's vision. It's interesting. It's this amalgamation of chaos that has wound up working into this seemingly ordered saga, much like the universe that we occupy, I suppose. It's fitting.